class, I'm Jill, and this is my needs assessment project. This is the content of my presentation. So first of all, we'll discuss the purpose of the needs assessment. Secondly, the data collection, and then we'll go on to the results. And then we'll discuss the recommendations I had based on my findings. And then we'll move on into the sharing of the findings with different agencies in the community. And then I will reflect on the project. So let's go on and move into the purpose of this needs assessment. So the issue that presents itself is transportation for low-income families within the rural community of Altus, Oklahoma. Transportation can help families who are living in poverty access their resources that will help them meet their basic needs and some even their more complex needs. I collected my data by interviewing 3 different agencies in my community. The participants consisted of a behavioral health case manager, a family support provider, and a therapist. The behavioral health case manager had a bachelor's degree, the therapist had a master's degree, and the family support provider had a high school diploma. All 3 interviewees were from separate agencies within the community. 1 interview was completed face-to-face, and 2 interviews were completed over the phone. I used these example questions to help me guide the conversations and able to collect the most meaningful data. The first few questions helped to begin the conversation. The last few questions focused on the needs of the community. I did not stick to the process of moving from one question to another. Instead, I inserted some questions in the conversation the way the conversation was going. The overall topics that I found to reoccur throughout the data were transportation and resources. Through the data, I began to discover that there are plenty of resources in the community to meet low-income families' needs, but low-income families have trouble accessing these resources due to unreliable transportation. Through my interviews, I discovered that the state of Oklahoma's rural public bus system, Southwest Transportation, can be pricey for individuals who have a large family they need to get into town. The system does not run on the weekend, and they only go into rural towns if someone schedules them to. Transportation is a huge concern of the agencies I interviewed. I believe reforming the bus system would be helpful to making it more accessible to low-income families. Also, I think rental bicycles could help low-income families become more active and reach their destination. Bicycles might not be the best option for rural families, but for families who do live closer to town, it could be a good option. Giving vouchers also for taxi rides for medical or mental health purposes could also be very beneficial to low-income families for helping out with their transportation needs. I plan on sharing the findings with the agencies that I interviewed, as well as a few more agencies in the community. through handing out this bubble chart. I also will include an explanation of the bubble chart. I would like to spend some time explaining my findings to the different agencies I interviewed if possible. I would also like to present my findings to the Oklahoma Department of Transportation in hopes that they will reevaluate the effectiveness of their public bus system here in the community. So let's just get into explaining this bubble chart some. So you see the yellow is on your right, the blue is on the left, and we all know blue and yellow make green. So with accessible transportation and community resources, we can meet the needs of low-income families. Let's first discuss some of the good things about my project. So I thought my questions were set up well to engage the interviewee in conversation. I attained much insight from my interviewees, which in return helped me analyze the data well. I also thought the agencies I decided to interview were a good fit because they provided resources and services to the low-income families within the community. Now let's move on to the bad. I think only interviewing 3 people from 3 different agencies narrowed down my data. I also think that giving the interviews 20 minutes would be plenty of time. However, I really needed about 30 minutes to get past the small talk and to get into the deep conversation about the needs of low-income families within the community. Next time I complete a needs assessment, I would interview more people and plan for more time spent on the interviews. The needs assessment was challenging at times, but also rewarding. Learning how to analyze interview data was difficult for me. However, I'm glad I learned how to analyze and code the data. I thought the needs assessment was rewarding because it helped me identify the needs of the community I live and work in. I also learned that the community I live in is rich in resources. I want to make a change in my community. I think a needs assessment is a great way to begin that change.